Hey, I'm Danny, aka Topless. I'm hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. I'm 500 miles in and I'm giving tips. So this tip is about surviving the desert heat. It's specifically about sweat. So this is an interesting topic. I've run into a lot of hikers who have overheated, gotten heat exhaustion, thrown up, passed out, and they've gotten various amounts of advice from people. Like, for example, I know one person who literally had to be rescued by the fire department. And what I learned from talking to all these hikers is that sweat is a key ingredient. So first of all, what sets humans apart from a lot of other animals out there is that we can sweat. We can change our temperature by sweating all over our skin and stay cooler. Compared to something like a cat or a dog, where they have to open their mouth and pant to sweat. So we have a huge advantage as humans. Sweat is a good thing as far as keeping your temperature regulated. In order to make sweat work, you have to make sure you have enough salt. Because when you sweat, it's salty, right? So your diet's gonna change a little bit in the desert, and you're gonna include salt. This could be just salty things like chips and stuff, or you could literally just have a sprinkle of salt onto your food. I actually started putting a little bit of salt in my coffee, and I'll explain that tip in another video. So make sure you've got salt. I've heard people say salt up. This is also a tip that I've gotten from Burning Man as well. So I was already familiar with this coming into this hike, that salt is something that's important when you're in the heat. Another way to put that is electrolytes, right? Salt and electrolytes. Those are the things that you're going to be looking for to make sure that you can sweat, basically. So here's the deal. The people I know who ended up with heat stroke, they made a couple of mistakes. One of them is they sped up. So if you're out here in the heat, like right now it's starting to get hot, which is why I decided to shoot this video. Right now I've got 2 miles left to my destination. It is really tempting for me to speed up. And just about every person who told me a story of heat stroke, that was how it started. They said, oh, I just want to get there. And they started to speed up and they overheated in the sun. And before long, they found themselves wanting to throw up and they had to crawl under a bush. So don't speed up in the desert. The other thing with sweat is that you need to know, like you know best. Let's switch hands here. Oh yeah, give my arm a break. So the other thing to know regarding sweat, you know best how much you sweat. And you might be embarrassed by it. But let me say, if you're in the desert, you want to sweat. I have run into at least 3 women who genetically don't sweat very much. And it's always been a great thing for them. But all 3 of them got heat stroke because of it. Because their body doesn't know how to cool down. Also, all 3 of them got the same advice. They now walk around with an extra bit of water which they dunk their shirts into so they can put their shirt back on and immediately cool down. So that's how they stay cool in the desert when they don't sweat much. So know yourself, know your body, and how much you sweat. And if you don't sweat much, if you just happen to be that genetically, bring extra water to dunk your shirt in. It makes a big difference for cooling down. This pause button. So, and finally, if you feel like you're getting grumpy, you're just agitated, you're irritated, everything's like little things about your gear just frustrating you and that sort of stuff, that's the beginning of heat stroke. And you should basically pull over, find some shade, get in there. You want to cool down. Like I said, if you could dunk your shirt in water, that's a great way to go. Take your hat off. Even my hat, even though it's topless, taking my hat off really cools me down fast if I'm standing in the shade. So know how to spot the early onset of heat exhaustion. Get in the shade, get cool, get some water, and stay safe. And the other thing to do in the shade is drink electrolytes.